Good morning, accelerators. Gosh, it seems like every time they change the interface here, and it's a whole different way to try to log in and do this. But I think I got it rolling now. Beautiful day here, sunny, nice September. We got a couple different questions here today. Not too many though, so you guys must have been working hard over the summer and got a lot of things going on. So with that, I will apologize real quick that I was supposed to do this yesterday, and the kids' drop-off for the second day of school got crazy in a weird way, and everything got discombobulated, and ultimately had to go swap backpacks because my daughter grabbed my wife's backpack, and so they do different things, obviously, and needed different supplies. So spent my morning doing fun stuff like that. Anyway, getting to it. First question is from Ricardo. Ricardo asks, how do I incentivize employees to stay longer with my company? He says, I own and operate a barber business that I feel like if I can find a way to give employees stock, shares, or bonuses, they would incentivize them to stick around more and grow with the business. Is there any strategies that have worked out there that I'd like to hear about them? Thanks. Well, Ricardo, there are all kinds of strategies. For small businesses, some people do like the idea of something that's called ghost shares, and those are shares that only really have a value if and when the company sells, but you can put restrictions around them. I haven't taken that approach, but there are certainly ways to do things like that. You certainly could offer something like a profit sharing bonus, so as the entire entity is doing better, there's a fixed known that there will be at end of the year some type of profit sharing that will be shared. I probably would suggest, although you can do both those things, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those, I would suggest the better way, at least short to midterm, to keep people incentivized to stay longer has more to do, I think, with the company culture, has to do with your vision and leadership. So if you can explain to the team, what they're doing, why they're doing it well, how they're helping, how they're part of the bigger picture, and why the bigger picture is so important. You do this for a reason, and it's probably not just because you like to cut hair. It's probably because you feel like you're making a difference in people's lives by doing this, or some other thing that's your actual purpose that's driving your passion for doing this. If they understand this and see this and buy into this, that's going to want them to be part of it. And that's what you as the leader, the visionary, need to keep everybody on the same page of what is the bigger picture, what is our purpose, why are we here? I mean, yes, everybody's there to get paid, but everybody's there for some other reason. There's that. They could go work somewhere else. So they're with you for a reason. They're going to stay with you for that reason. I would stick as that as your core. And then obviously if you want to incent them in some financial way as well, that's awesome, but that's going to be gravy. If people are only there for the financial reasons, ultimately they're not going to be the best additions to your team in the first place. Next question is from Michael. Michael asks, after you buy into a business, how do you quantify that you've got your investment back? The background here is I bought into ticketscene.ca a year ago and have been working on it. And I just quit my day job in April. So now the business is paying my wages, but it's only paying what I would have made in my day job. At present, I don't believe that this is getting my investment back. I agree. It's not. Basically, you bought yourself a job that you paid for. That said, I mean, I say that kiddingly. In a startup mode, especially if you're passionate about it, you want to be part of it, then there's going to be some opportunity costs involved. When you actually get your investment back, I would look at some reasonable return of what that would be. So let's just assume the investment's $10,000. I would look at, and let's just say your wage is $50,000 a year. You were making $50,000 a year before, and they brought you on now at $50,000 a year. I would call that a wash, but you're now doing what you're passionate about. But your $10,000, I would be looking for in terms of dividends back. I would also be looking for some kind of return on that because you took a risk in some type of startup. So until you feel like you got your actual investment back, I would look for dividends, at which point that I got to that $10,000. And then I would say I got my investment back. But as an owner or a startup, you may not get that capital investment back for many, 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 many years, or even until this company might exit and sell, would you get some of that investment back. So it just depends on where it's, how is it using the the profits. Most of the time in startup mode, profits are going to be reinvested into the organization to hire more people or purchase more assets or buy more inventory or whatever those things might be. So I wouldn't, unless you necessarily were promised, hey, within a year you're going to get your initial investment back. I wouldn't be looking for that. I'd be looking for that capital to continue to grow the company. Hope that helps. So, next question is Ricardo. And Ricardo says, how does a company do employee annual reviews? And how would a small business approach this to employees when it's never been done before? And the background is I own and operate a barber shop, and I want to start doing employee reviews. I want to approach this correctly. Any advice is appreciated. There's all kinds of ways to do it, and I would say the first thing, the easy answer is pull the Band-Aid off. Just say, hey, we're going to start doing this. That said, I think there's a lot of experts out there that have leaned away from annual reviews and moved more toward like monthly meetings. The idea that you're going to correct a problem or an initiative once a year doesn't make a lot of sense, obviously. So then that once a year becomes this massive, like, okay, we need to set goals for the entire year and then try to measure if we accomplish those. And if we did, everybody expects some type of raise, increase, or salary. And with inflation the way it is right now, if that were even the case, you may not want to be waiting a year to give that wage increase as well. So that said, I would say maybe monthly meetings as opposed to reviews, and try to have them even as more open discussions. So, what are they seeing? What's working for them? What's working for you? What could you do differently as an employer? What could we do differently as a firm? Things along those lines. In addition to, hey, I'm seeing these things, or these are the actions I'd like to correct, or these are the goals I'd like to accomplish, in the next 90 days from your role, and then we can measure those progressively on a monthly basis. So I would certainly look at doing that, and I'd just start it with, hey, I wanted to start having a monthly one-on-one with you. How about Thursdays at 8 a.m.? And I think if anything, if you approach it that way, I want to learn from you, and I want to see what I can do better, and both of us grow together. I think it's a great conversation, and they'll holistically embrace it. Next question is from Eric. Eric asks, what are the strategies I can implement to go deeper within a specific industry to gain more clients? And he says, RO Effect Marketing is a full-service agency specializing in lead generation, advertising, and content creation. I was able to go to, I think there's a couple typos in here, so I'm trying my best. was to go to industry events where more of my target clients will be. Maybe sponsor the event, be a speaker, etc. What are your thoughts, and are there any suggestions that I could do to get a larger market share within my niche? So I think D, all the above. It sounds like you kind of already know the answer to your question. The more you participate in your industry as some kind of expert or vendor or speaker, in social media, any of those aspects, the more you can give back to your industry, you're going to become, deeper and deeper involved in that industry. So I think it's really a question of, what is the industry and where do they hang out? Whether it's on social media or these events or the cocktails after, sponsorships can help on things like that. It just depends on the size of the event and the venue, the size of you, and how much value you think you're going to get out of that particular sponsorship, or if just participating or showing up is better, or planning a separate after hours after that event or something like those lines, and invite people out. Just look for creative ways to build and grow into that industry based on what that industry does and is looking to do. And our last question for this month is from Ricardo. And Ricardo asks, how do you weigh the costs and returns of how many events and conferences you should attend within your industry to build relationships and get industry knowledge? Background is I own and operate a barbershop business, and I feel like it's necessary to always look to build business relationships in my industry. I want to attend as many events as possible, but sometimes I'm not sure I'm getting a return. How can I better measure this? It's a tough line. It's a tough thing to measure. So I think first of all, the question is, how would you measure it? What are you trying to get out of these events? If you're still in the learning phase and you think there's all kinds of product knowledge or how to cut hair differently or different types of clippers. I don't really know a lot about the barber industry, unfortunately. Then you're learning a ton, then going to these would make a ton of sense. If now you're becoming some of the expert and you feel like you're giving back to your community, and that makes you feel good, that's awesome too. I'm not saying don't help people or do that, because I think whatever you give back pays off in spades long term. But how and when is always going to be a little bit tough to measure. But those connections, those networks, tend to help us out, and I think we enjoy doing them. But if you're still in growth phase or startup phase, and you're going to an event once a week, and that same time, that once a week, you could be making revenue or paying books or building better relationship with your employees or finding more customers, whatever those other things are. You need to weigh that balancing act of, where am I at to where should I be at in order to be doing all these things. I don't think there's any magic ratio. I think when you first start out, you need to learn a ton. So that probably, I think it kind of is a curve, something like, you first start out, you need to do all these things and spend a lot of that time in a lot of areas to really learn and grow from it. But as you get more settled in and understand what you're doing ahead of time and where you're going, you need to spend more of that time in the business for a period of time. And then after that, once you finally got a couple more employees and you have a little bit more free time, now you can do the other side of that scale, and now you're participating at more of an authority figure type of side, and that offers value too. So I think depending on where you're at in that growth cycle is probably how and when you want to spend the time down those areas. And that's it, accelerators. So talk to you next month. Let me know if you have any questions then, and we'll go from there. Have a great month.